7 elites dead in a forest, crushed in under 6 seconds, in true Saitama style, all done by a 10-year-old kid. He was born to be a god, but they ripped the power from his mind, tossed aside like useless trash. His only grandpa and protector died, and came back as a flesh-eating monster. Alone, he refused to accept the end. He found the tomb of the true king, and stole a forbidden martial art, trading magic for brutal strength, turning his body into a lethal weapon. Now, he's hunting down the ones who ruined his life, breaking nobles with his bare hands. After all, who would suspect a kid? The bloodbath is just getting started. The story kicks off with 2 little birds being all lovey-dovey. Soon, the sound of a galloping horse cuts through the silent woods. Rushing his ride, the rider yells to giddy up, and showing up right behind him, a whole crew is escorting a carriage. Then, the group leader hits the brakes, looking super surprised, pulling the reins hard and making his horse come to a dead stop. All because of our MC just standing there alone by a tree, holding up the squad while a guard walks over to the carriage, letting the boss lady know about the kid, and she agrees to question him. So the guy circles around and sneaks up on the boy from behind, calling out to the kid in a real, gentle voice, offering some silver to see if he spotted any porcelain dolls. But he turns it down, saying his grandpa told him not to take stuff from strangers. Smiling, he says it is a payment, not a gift. Without missing a beat, the kid snatches the coin, totally shocking the guard. Holding the silver, he asks if they are looking for 12-inch tall kids. Super pumped, the guard confirms that those are exactly the ones. Spinning around in a rush, telling the lady that the creatures are right there. And the whole crew waits, looking pretty tense in the middle of the woods. Suddenly, a huge hit blasts the carriage to pieces in an explosion. Right behind our startled MC, a creature with glowing eyes pops up. Cutting through the air, a woman's voice claims they are the good guys. Stopping right in front of the kid, the woman calls him little bro. Getting straight to the point, she asks where the porcelain dolls went. Looking up at her, the boy gives her a compliment, comparing her to Ju Yukai. Laughing at the girly name, she tells him to take her to the creatures, giving a little finger gesture, showing that they have a deal. Just then, the background turns red, showing some freaky figures behind him. A horned figure shows up, making the woman scowl right away. Scolding the kid, the skull warns him that taking money will get him killed. Snapping back to reality, the boss lady calls out to him again. Shaking his head, the little guy shows that he gets it. Ordering them to move out, the noble woman tells them to bring the kid along. As the group walks away, the shot reveals a body hanging from the tree. Whispering with confidence, the ghost says the kid has totally got this, panning out to a huge landscape full of foggy mountains. Stopping in his tracks, the kid says he is hungry and wants to go home. Handing over some jerky, Fangy says it is from a spiritual beast. Petting his hair, she finds out people call him Little Honest. Grabbing the snack, he says thanks and heads up front to lead the way. Mentioning he is a cultivator, the leader agrees since she already noticed. Thinking he is a 10-year-old genius, capable of stopping the world. But, noticing something off, she calls out to Fanghe, who agrees, seeing that the kid's divine sanctuary is completely empty. Explaining the deal, the guard figures some clan stole his inner talent. Going on, he warns that the meat's energy just created a pure illusion. Shaking her head, the leader thinks it is a total miracle he even lived. Right then, the blue aura around our MC completely vanishes. Putting it together, she figures the magistrate's son stole his gift. Wrapping up the chat, the guard agrees that is pretty likely. Sighing, the girl thinks that family is way too powerful to mess with. Smiling, she decides to just end the poor kid's miserable life. With a cold look, she plans a quick kill and wiping out the whole village. Meanwhile, our boy is right there, just sighing at her little plan. Then, the skull mentions that folks who mess up lose their whole bloodline. Hearing that, the kid flashes a huge super creepy smile, repeating his master's lesson about pulling evil up by the roots, cutting over to a really peaceful, quiet forest, with fish swimming around in a creek, totally unbothered. Suddenly, a hand shoots out of the water and snatches the fish. Turns out to be little porcelain dolls playing in the creek with their catch. Meanwhile, the MC keeps leading the squad through the brush. Hearing a noise, the guards stop and draw their swords. Smiling, the leader orders them to follow the dolls to the tomb. Then, she calls out to the kid, who's crouching down watching it all, thanking him with an evil smirk since his job is officially done. Back at the creek, the dolls celebrate their catch, feeling super proud, but the kid keeps leading the duo right across the rocks. Out of nowhere, he throws some sticks just as a distraction, making the dolls spot the danger with their eyes wide open. Now totally exposed, the leader curses when she realizes the screw-up, laughing nervously, not even knowing what to say next, with the creatures panicking and splashing water all over the place. Firing up, the woman asks if she is really that scary, yelling right after to grab them all and not let anyone get away. Rushing in, but a doll just trips one of the guys, turning into total chaos with them bolting into the woods. splitting up in all directions to totally confuse the chase. Furious, Fang He yells that it is just a distraction tactic. Shutting down the panic, the leader orders them to go after the kid. With that, the group sprints right after him, speeding up the chase, making the whole forest look like a blur, with giant trees turning the place into a natural maze, shifting the view to a tree trunk like someone is peeking out. Soon enough, the woman and the guard stop, looking around, complaining about losing sight of the kid in the thick brush, finding the place weird with way taller trees and thicker weeds. And the creek, which used to be tiny, now looks like a raging river. Then it clicks, and she tells the guard to hold on a second. Realizing the plants did not grow, they are the ones who shrank. In pure panic, letting out a really high-pitched scream, and a guard goes down screaming in pain with a busted leg, shocked to see there is no blood, just broken porcelain. Pointing at his boss lady, the guy looks totally freaked out, looking at herself, terrified to see her body turning into porcelain. Seeing everyone change, she yells that something is wrong and tells them to bail, shouting that they are in a ghost domain, telling them to stop freaking out, warning that the kid did it and divine powers are useless here, arguing that the rule applies to the kid too, ordering them to track him down, getting the crew back to running fast through the woods, moving carefully through the heavy brush, soon bumping straight into the broken stones of some ancient ruins, thinking it is the right spot, at the ruins of the true king's tomb. Then, a familiar voice echoes asking what took them so long, turning their heads, seeing the main guy climbing out of a hole in the ground. Smiling, he says the doll's nest is right there, inviting them to come in, telling Fang He that the kid turned into a doll too and planning to catch him. So, the squad heads inside the place, with giant cracked vases lining the path, following the kid. Realizing it is a pottery kiln and not a tomb, finding the whole place super weird, and a guard calls out that he found the dolls hiding behind a door, but the little guys are shaking in fear, making a shushing motion. Laughing at their cowardice, the guard gets his pure clay hand ready to strike. Out of nowhere, the door just explodes into pieces. A giant porcelain foot steps out, making the duo brace themselves, crushing the guard with zero mercy until he turns to dust, with shards flying everywhere from the massive hit. 3 giants show up, with the middle one glaring at the group with pure hate. Looking up in pure terror, the woman whispers for them to run, screaming for them to bail, making the whole squad scatter in a panic, with the guards sprinting away as a giant hand reaches out right behind them, grabbing the duo, who scream for help while getting squeezed hard, smashing one of them against his face, crushing the guy who was begging for his life. Looking back, the leader spots our MC huddled up, faking being scared against the wall. Then, another hand comes down and grabs another guard who lets out a huge yell, until Fang He gets snatched up, making her scream his name in total despair. Soon a little doll tugs on the woman's clothes, begging her to stay quiet. Hearing the guy screaming, having absolutely no clue what is going on, a giant eye peeks through the crack in the door, just staring right at them, getting super close, completely freezing the woman in pure terror. After that, the attack stops, leaving her standing in the yard with the survivors, huffs in anger, totally fed up with all the madness in this place, while from way up high, a giant stares down at the few who made it, scooping up the remaining guards and tossing them straight into the blazing kiln, dropping right into the flames and screaming in non-stop agony, with one getting burned alive, his porcelain body just melting right in the fire, cursing out the giants in pure rage, though they clearly do not care at all, finding it crazy that folks from the Zhao family are dying in a dump like this. Just then, a doll asks if she also got scammed by Little Honest. Blowing up in anger, the doll says that Little Punk tricked them on a treasure hunt, adding that they are victims, and that Demon has been turning them to porcelain for 2 years, explaining they used to be human and do not even know if they can ever turn back. Realizing she got played, she decides to act fast before becoming a knick-knack forever. Then, a doll recognizes her as the second young miss of the Zhao family. Surprised, she finds out it is Li Xian, someone she knew years ago. Right after that, other dolls from fancy noble families start introducing themselves, going into shock seeing that they are all powerful people who fell into the same trap, thinking with disgust that this kid is a top-tier villain, panning out to show the kilns burning away in the gloomy landscape. Then, a foot stomps the ground, smashing a porcelain vase into 1,000 pieces. Tilting the camera up, a porcelain giant is standing guard over the pots, focusing on a small, untouched pot right between 2 busted vases. And the pot shatters, with our MC popping out laughing, wearing a piece like armor. With the vase shielding his body, he takes off sprinting and kicking up dust, failing into the forest, leaving all that crazy mess right behind him. Safe at last, he looks at the kilns from far away, thinking city folks are just too much drama. Frowning, he figures out that hunters are the worst and just want to take him out. Remembering Master Ju, who taught him that leaving someone in peace means burying them right there. With that, the kid climbs the kiln stairs, reaching a spot nobody would ever find. Slipping and jumping fast right across the rocks, landing super hard, kicking up a dust cloud and thinking he just messed everything up. His eyes go super wide, looking incredibly worried. But he feels a huge wave of relief seeing that nothing got broken. Getting up carefully, knowing that one wrong move will turn him into crumbs. So he steps on the ground paying extreme attention, totally focused, walking straight through the dampness, thinking about busting out the strongest ghost domain. Just then, his feet change and the porcelain starts fading away, turning his hands back into actual flesh and bone, with a green energy completely wrapping around his body, finally getting his normal human arm back, suppressing the kiln magic and going totally back to normal, taking a deep breath, staying sharp with a fully healed body, arriving in front of a massive stone mural, knowing this is the spot, finding the stone tablet, completely covered up in roots, remembering the woman's jerky, figuring it will be super handy right about now, taking a bite hoping the energy helps him crack the secrets of the place. Soon, an ethereal blue projection pops right out of the stone, moving forward, but the tomb's barrier tightens its grip with every single step. Suddenly, a beast statue roars, telling him to stop right there, warning him that if the ghost domain activates everything around there, not even his grandpa can save him as the statue starts to crack, understanding perfectly how this whole place works. Reading on the stone about using the sun, moon, and stars to cultivate righteous chi. Stomping its foot, the guardian yells that it is enough reading for today, telling the kid not to get greedy and to just beat it already. Another beast pops up, warning about good karma and that it is getting dark, leaving our main guy totally confused by this new heads up, explaining that the night is dangerous, making the kid say thanks to Uncle Horns. So, the kid just bails out of there at a full sprint, taking one last look behind him as he hits the road, cutting through the woods and jumping over the stone walls, stopping far away, totally out of breath, bummed he did not finish reading the technique, wanting to be just like the other kids, studying and becoming a smart scholar, wishing he was not useless so he can make his grandpa super proud. Just then he notices the sky turning a deep dark red, with a giant fiery face showing up right in the sunset, getting freaked out, needing to get home before some spirit catches him, and the golden beast asks its brother why it let the human go, answering that it wanted to squash the kid, but his grandpa is bad news, remembering how the old man raided the tomb for 9 days and stole the technique, figuring the old geezer wants to refine his body and turn into a zombie, but the guardian shoots back saying the guy must have been dead for a long time, and the little kid from just now is exactly the same deal, flashing an image of the kid for just a split second, concluding that there is zero breath of life in him. Meanwhile, our boy runs for his life when he hears a weird noise, glancing over his shoulder, looking really spooked, seeing a creepy shadow taking shape right there in the trees, growing crazy fast and turning into a giant monster, opening a slimy mouth totally ready to strike, with its red eyes glowing and letting out a terrifying scream, remembering his grandpa's warning that anyone who meets this thing is dead meat. Lunging fast, but the kid dodges it by just a hair. Sweating bullets, he scarfs down the last piece of jerky, making it the perfect time to test out the 3 lights righteous chi art, cracking a smile seeing that the tomb's method is 1,000 times better, blasting blue energy right at another skull blocking his way, boosting the kid through the grass at top speed, feeling amazed by absorbing just the faint starlight, getting hyped on his last breath when he spots the village entrance. But he stops out of nowhere because the technique's effect just vanished, going into full panic mode thinking he is totally screwed, with the creature popping up right in his face and screaming, standing completely frozen with absolutely no way out, until his grandpa shows up, making the kid yell in pure relief, and the old man says it is time to go home and take his medicine, agreeing, but finding the smell of meat on his grandpa super weird. So, the two walk off with the kid jogging right behind him, while the monster way back there roars in total frustration. Just then, a giant branch shoots from the village and smacks the beast dead on, spinning the monster around with pure brute force, leaving the creature totally tied up and silenced on the spot, making slurping noises while our MC chugs everything from his bowl, thinking with relief inside the tub that the meal is finally over, yelling at the dog to stop blowing air on the fire, making the poor animal look super clueless and embarrassed, but instead of stopping, he just blows on the fire even harder, making the boys scream for help while sitting in boiling water, remembering waking up with no memory after his grandpa used herbs for 9 years, touching that massive scar right on the back of his head, recalling recalling the voices saying some clan out there stole his gift, being super sure they ripped out his talent to give it to some useless test taker, clenching his fist, totally furious at the thief who stole his life, promising payback while punching the water right in the tub, splashing water on the dog who just looks completely lost, but he thinks happily that at least he was not born a loser, smiling, realizing he can cultivate and become a favorite of the gods, wondering why his grandpa still forces him to take this nasty medicinal bath, until the dog gets spooked by some random noise outside. His eyes go super wide, trapped in total panic, with his grandpa stepping into the room right after, thinking about when the old guy got so freaking weird, remembering when the art worked and he actually looked like a person. But now, with those red eyes, there is nothing human about him. Just then, the dog blows on the fire, getting super anxious, getting super nervous and breaking out in a cold sweat right away. Hiding away, the MC peeks out to watch the old man leave, sighing in relief now that he finally walked out, with big bubbles popping up in the medicinal bathwater, making a face, knowing that the terrible pain is coming back, while the gross liquid keeps bubbling all around him, twisting his face, feeling his internal organs just burning up, making a scream of pure agony echo through the whole house. Afterwards, the kid hops out of the bath looking completely drained, sighing in sweet relief that it is finally over. Peeking out the window, he spots his grandpa calling his dad with a talisman, saying that life is tough, but the kid is still his son. Thinking he has never even seen his dad and does not really care. Remembering his grandpa at the altar saying he was running out of time, just standing there looking exactly like a real statue. Then, with his bandaged hand, he straight up crushes 2 candles, making a demonic face and smashing everything right in his hand, grinding his teeth with weird liquid drooling out of his mouth, throwing his head back, sniffing up incense, and letting out a scream. With glowing red eyes, he announces he is starving to death. Meanwhile, lying down, the MC catches a really awesome smell, sweating cold, not having a clue where it is coming from. Seeing his grandpa by the bed, saying that the smell is simply delicious, but the old man quickly turns his back and gets out of there, slamming the heavy wooden door with a really loud bang, calming down in bed, figuring he is probably just sick, starting to cultivate, with blue energy wrapping around his body, writhing in pain, complaining that it hurts way too much. All of a sudden, a green ghost hand appears right over him, squeezing his chest, making him think the bath should have blocked this, grinding his teeth, stuck in a moment of absolute agony. In his mind, giant hands pull him down as he screams for his grandpa, getting dragged away and just begging to be saved, crashing onto the bedroom floor and breaking free from the tight grip. Still on the floor, he decides not to rely on the old man every single time, super determined to save himself without anybody's help, but the hand squeezes his heart and a lot of blood starts gushing, making the kid let out an incredibly terrible scream, betting it all on the 3 lights righteous chi art, stepping firm and getting totally ready for the technique, stumbling around, putting his own life on the line for the magic, making a hand seal right on the spot, chanting about ghosts messing with the world of men, telling them to watch the sky as lightning blasts right into the room. He needs to cultivate some fierce chi to refine his sacred fetus and his body, and the technique's energy blasts right into the ghost hand on his back. Just like that, the blue claw starts to fade away, with the impacts throwing the kid completely backward. Lying there, he grabs his chest and wonders what the heck is going on, staring at the moon, completely clueless as to why that thing haunts his body. Meanwhile, a creepy noise cuts through the moonlit forest, with the sound of something getting chewed up echoing through the trees. It's his grandpa laughing like a maniac, holding a giant chunk of meat, looking like a total monster and gobbling down his meal with joy, chewing loudly and saying the meal is absolutely delicious, devouring the giant beast, thinking monsters actually taste better than people. The victim is a hideous creature covered in eyes and slimy mouths. Then, the old guy uses a massive cleaver to chop the meat with brute force. Hiding away, the MC peeks through the door as his grandpa preps the feast. Freaking out, he thinks he'll eat anything but human flesh, spying on the old man chopping up more pieces in the pitch dark, until he hears a loud noise outside and goes to check it out, seeing a whole festival where folks are carrying roast pork to pray for peace, peeking through the gate and realizing it's time for the monthly offering again, with a crowd begging the giant tree to keep all the evil away. But our guy knows it's definitely not the tree doing the protecting. It's whoever lives inside it, as a reflection pops up on his talisman, seeing the woman smiling on the branch, remembering she's pure evil. Suddenly, a booming voice tells her to stop just as she's about to bite the apple. It's Grandpa snatching the fruit from the kid who claims it's from the godmother, leaving the MC totally confused as the apple melts right in the old man's hand, crushing the leftovers and saying if she really was a godmother, they'd all be her kids, leaving the creepy tree lady completely shocked shocked and pretty darn furious, deciding it's best to listen to his grandpa and stay the heck away from her. Then, the old guy calls him for dinner, and the kid says he's on his way, seeing nasty bugs, weird fruits, and random bones piled on the table, covering his mouth in total disgust, asking if that's supposed to be food or medicine. But grandpa says it's both, telling him to eat up because he's sick, arguing that he actually feels fine, but the old guy shuts him down real quick, insisting that he had another weird episode last night and really needs his meds, wondering how the old man even knows that if he wasn't even home, until he sees a massive gross eye literally sprout right out of his back, getting completely terrified by that crazy bizarre scene. With zero choices left, he downs the bowl and gets praised for being a good boy. Later on, all alone in his room, our guy starts to meditate, feeling the heavy medicine making his heart practically boil, with blue energy shining out as his technique absorbs the fast cultivation, determined to refine his entire body and create a brand new sacred fetus. So he won't ever need that nasty beef jerky to unlock the tomb again. A few days later, the kid peeks from behind a box, getting ready to pounce, watching them push a cart while the old man yells to tie it down tight, smiling when he spots the magic talisman that'll make the cart fly, complaining about the awful stench of black dog blood in the air. With a wicked smile, he plans to snatch some energy straight from the dog's neck. Shaking with fear, the poor dog is sweating bullets just thinking about it. Then, his red-eyed grandpa grabs the bowl full of blood, using a compass and some weird gadget just to navigate, yelling at little She to hurry up and hop on the cart. Laughing out loud, the MC jumps onto the boxes and says, "Let's roll." Hitting the road, he remembers the first day of the month is market day, holding some fruit, thinking about the town's creepy godmother tree. But he's got his own stone godmother sprinting straight for the tombstone, sticking 3 incense sticks right into the pot, clasping his hands together with a big smile, ready to pray. Suddenly, a hanged ghost pops up right in front of him, rocking a massive tongue and a super spooky vibe. Bowing with respect, the kid actually thanks the ghostly scholar, and the ghost praises the kid for being such a fast learner. Jumping back over the gate, Grandpa notices the medicine is definitely working, leaving the kid feeling pretty awkward after that weird comment. Rolling into Shangyang village, he checks out the godmother's pagoda, where the villagers' combined power actually forms a tiny little monk that protects the whole area and racks in tons of offerings. But for any outsiders, the story is completely different. Staring wide-eyed at the massive table, totally loaded with food, getting called over for a quick snack by the little monk, almost grabbing the tilth, but a giant hand pops out of nowhere. Back at the market, the cart creaks super loud as it stops, hearing the local vendors shouting about their fresh hot bread, explaining how he and his grandpa sell magic talismans right there, and the old man's drawings are a huge hit with all the wannabe officials. Grandpa takes a seat at the stall while the kid unloads all the gear, getting greeted by 2 guys looking to buy some fresh spells, joking around, saying they thought the old man finally became a scholar, clapping back real quick about who'd sell the talismans if he did. Then the other guy brings up a wild rumor that the old man actually died, making Grandpa's eye flash a sinister red right on the spot, leaving the guys totally pale after seeing that creepy face. But out of nowhere, everybody just bursts out laughing about the rumor that he sleeps in a coffin, which Grandpa totally denies. Getting super tense, the kid just nods along, terrified by the chat. Cut to nighttime, where the monster grandpa is absolutely starving, blowing smoke from his mouth with a painful, creepy grunt. Meanwhile, the kid peeks at the whole thing through a tiny crack, with his eyes wide open, standing there in absolute shock, watching his grandpa put out the incense right in front of the memorial plaque, realizing that those crazy market rumors were 100% true. Back at the market, a lady taps his shoulder to get his attention, flashing a smile, with another pretty girl popping up right behind her. Stepping back, our guy blushes hard from that super soft touch, until his grandpa butts in to ask what the ladies are looking for, grabbing the MC right by his hands without any warning, asking for 2 peach blossom talismans with a flirty smile, blushing like crazy as she whispers her order right into his ear, handing over the wrapped up talismans to the pretty ladies. As they leave, one calls him cute, but the other warns her he can totally hear them, ignoring the warning, while the MC just stands there watching them walk away, blushing red with a goofy grin, cause that compliment really made his day. Turning to his grandpa, he says he's gonna go take a quick bathroom break, but the old man yells at him to pull it out right now, totally shocking the kid, asking what the heck he's supposed to pull out, completely confused and scared. Sticking his hand out, the old guy demands those peach blossom talismans. Handing them over, he claims he's not a kid, but Grandpa brings up his young age anyway, frowning hard when the old man casually reminds him that he's very sick. Blowing up in anger, the kid demands to know what kind of disease this even is, getting totally ignored as the scene cuts back to their cart on the the dirt road. On the ride back, the MC munches on a snack sitting on top of the cargo, suddenly having a light bulb moment, remembering something super important. Looking at his grandpa sitting on the cart holding 3 sticks of incense, recalling that crazy mangacap silently begging the old man not to die on him. Right then, the old man waves him over to get real close, hopping over real quick to sit right by his grandpa's side. With a hand on his grandson's head, he tells him that death is just inevitable. Getting all deep in thought, the kid calls out to the old guy super quietly, pointing at a ruined village where everybody got wiped out by some crazy evil, explaining about the dead godmother, and the kid asks if grandpa will become theirs. Laughing it off, the old guy says when he dies, he'll just get dragged into the underworld. Looking out at the horizon, spotting a bunch of creepy blue spirits floating around. They're just a bunch of tormented souls, twisting and turning right there in the air, asking why the heck those souls didn't get dragged down below too. Staying totally silent, his grandpa just stares blankly at the spooky landscape, answering that while they were alive, they totally disrespected the ghosts and the gods. Soon enough, the trip rolls on to the chill sound of running water. Pulling into Fangdian village, spotting a massive tree right by the river. Completely surprised, the kid asks if they have their very own godmother here, staring straight at the little shrine tucked right at the base of the trunk, seeing the green-haired girl with branches on her head, just eating fruit and keeping watch. Parking the cart and immediately getting to work unloading all their stuff. All of a sudden, a villager screams to hide from the 6 Fans Gate crew, asking what that even is, and Grandpa explains they're just the government's little guard dogs. A bunch of guys on horseback roll in, yelling and whipping everything in sight. Stopping hard, one of them yells that dodging taxes gets you 100 solid lashes. Right then, Lu Tianyan glares at the crowd with absolute disgust, smacking his basket of coins, demanding respect while the locals just grumble. Checking his book, the guard confirms Lu Xi actually paid his land tax, but demands the home and business tax, asking where the heck the guy is. Flexing a creepy aura and glowing red eyes, a massive red temple pops up right behind him. Shaking in his boots, a villager steps up and says the guy actually passed away. Shocked, the guard finds out he died the exact day after their last shakedown. Then Tianan hops back on his horse, more than ready to get out of there. Looking over his shoulder, he asks exactly how the poor guy died. Looking down, the villager mutters that he actually hung himself, adding that he did it on the godmother's tree and his body was already stiff as a board. Letting out a super sarcastic laugh, the officer gets incredibly suspicious. Staring at the tree, Lu figures out that Lu basically sacrificed himself to the godmother. Smirking, realizing the guy literally used his own body just to beg for revenge. The scene cuts to all the officers hanging out in the courtyard right under the giant tree. Throwing his arms wide, Lu yells that avenging the dead means going against the Great Ming, bragging that destroying the godmother is easy, and the villagers can just deal with the evil themselves. Hiding away, our MC is totally stunned that this officer actually has the guts to threaten their protector. Meanwhile, the godmother munches on some fruit, listening in and deciding if she'll put up with this crap. He figures she's stuck trying to choose between avenging the guy or keeping the whole village safe. Turning his back, the guard declares that the man might be dead, but his taxes sure aren't, demanding to know where the rest of the dead guy's family is hiding right now. The villagers explain his whole family had a tragic ending and every single one of them died, ordering his men to confiscate literally everything so he can just file his report later. Without missing a beat, his officers completely bust down the dead guy's front door, complaining the place is full of junk and whining about having to pay the debt out of his own pocket, suggesting they just make the other villagers cough up whatever cash is still missing. Out in the courtyard, the angry villagers stare down the officers, building up some serious tension. Seeing the mob form, Lu actually dares to ask if they're trying to start a full-blown rebellion. The crowd tightens their grip on their tools, making the vibe incredibly tense. Chuckling, he brags that his boys already passed a big county exam, adding that they got that divine blessing and even refined their divine fetus. Completely crushing their spirit, the officer taunts them, saying they don't even stand a chance, ordering them to just pay up the tax, claiming you can always make more money, but you only get one life. Right then, old man Chen hands over a fat bag of coins to the officer, praising the officer who jokes right back about shaking him down for taxes all these years. Out of nowhere, Lu stops and sniffs the air, trying to place that really funky smell. His eyes go wide in total shock when he realizes it straight up smells like a corpse, pointing right at our MC and asking if he's that famous #1 Shusai. Totally confused as to why this big bad government guy is suddenly terrified of him. Next thing you know, the officer praises Chen for literally stealing the secrets of heaven and earth, but warns him not to break the law unless he wants to deal with him later. Totally ignoring the threat, Grandpa yells at everyone to pack up and leave fast, whipping out a nasty looking knife from absolutely nowhere. stabbing the poor dog with zero mercy, making the pup howl in total pain, with the MC holding the bowl and gently petting the bleeding dog to calm him down, until the poor dog just collapses feeling incredibly sore. Then Grandpa dips a brush straight into the blood and paints right onto his talisman. Back at the stall, the kid notices the old man is almost completely out of talismans, asking if his grandpa really used to be the #1 shusai across 50 whole provinces. Snapping back, the old guy tells little Ten to stop living in the past, and the dog starts barking his head off, glaring at them with pure hatred. Pointing out the sky is getting dark, Grandpa says it's time to hit the road. Looking up, the MC says it's way too early since the sun is still literally shining. In the crowd, somebody complains they didn't even have time to sell any more talismans. Packing up his box, our guy gets jump scared when something randomly flies right inside. Looking around, looking totally and utterly confused. Zooming in on the temple altar, where the incense is magically burning all by itself, with the tree godmother quietly watching everything unfold from right behind a talisman. Meanwhile, Lou is barking orders while his guys stuff all the loot into giant bags, tying up all their stolen loot straight onto the back of the horses, telling them to hurry up before dark, but one of his guys points out it's still super early, warning that nights out here are deadly even for a fancy divine fetus cultivator. Staring hard at the tree, figuring out somebody definitely used their own body as a sacrifice. Cutting back to the MC and his grandpa on the road, as their creaky cart keeps rolling along. Then the old guy shows off a nasty centipede and proudly calls it tonight's dinner, making a totally grossed out face. The kid admits he absolutely hates that medicinal junk. With the sky turning orange, Grandpa notices it actually got dark 15 minutes early tonight. Completely surprised, the kid asks if that silly dog was late giving them the warning. Grumbling about the useless dog, Grandpa threatens to make him into a stew, totally panicking the pup. Swearing out loud, the old man complains they won't make it to Hompo village in time. Right then, the MC quickly points out a creepy little temple nearby. Heading straight up the path toward the creepy temple sitting on the hill, deciding to crash there, but the kid thinks it's weird, swearing the hill just popped out of nowhere, walking right into the dusty, completely abandoned temple, with a totally busted roof and a massive Buddha statue sitting in the back. Looking around for something super heavy to block the front door, jogging over to a massive boulder just sitting there on the floor, pushing with all his might and calling his grandpa over to help him lift it. With one crazy push, she accidentally lifts the whole boulder right over his head, totally shocked to realize it feels super light and he's gotten crazy strong, tossing the rock and blocking the front door with a massive, heavy thud. Glancing up and realizing the busted roof definitely needs a patch job too, doing a crazy high jump right to the top, completely stunned by his own agility, hanging in the air, wondering if all that gross medicine actually gave him superpowers, getting yelled at to come eat, shouting back that he's coming while perfectly balancing up there. As the sun sets, night rolls in and a creepy blue light starts glowing in the tree. Suddenly, bare feet touch the ground while the officers ride in the background, suggesting they head back since it's late, but Lou orders them to crash at that temple, pointing to the super isolated temple sitting way up there on the hill, riding their horses like crazy and screaming at everyone to speed it up, while bare feet with shiny gold anklets touch the dirt super lightly. It's the tree godmother, looking totally chill and holding a piece of fruit, making Lou whip around super fast, looking absolutely terrified. Spotting the godmother standing with her back to him right on the stone path, she just turns her face slightly to the side and takes a bite of her fruit. Out of nowhere, one of the officers screams his lungs out in pure agony. Massive black thorns burst from the ground, impaling the guys while they scream. The thorns launch Lu Tianan flying through the air, sending him into an absolute panic, crashing hard into the dirt, looking completely and utterly shell-shocked. His eyes widen in absolute terror as her reflection pops up right in his pupils. She jumps and lands perfectly on the tip of a thorn right above a dead officer. Staring at the horror, he hears she actually honors sacrifices and spared the innocent locals. With one quick move, a crazy blast of energy totally wipes out the rest of Lu's guys, leaning forward and giving him a completely dead, freezing cold stare. Then she snaps her head straight toward the temple like she felt something off. Inside the temple, the MC is peeking at the whole slaughter through a tiny crack, having a total panic attack, thinking she definitely just saw his face. With one final thud, the godmother vanishes into thin air, leaving nothing but dead bodies, asking if she finally left, while Grandpa just asks if he watched the whole bloody thing, confirming that the godmother basically deleted dozens of trained cultivators' in one single second. Chilling by the fire, the old guy tells him not to be jealous, since he could beat them too, asking if he could ever be as strong as her, but Grandpa shuts him down, saying no way. Looking totally bummed out by that brutally honest answer, pointing right at his grandson, the old man warns that with his current weak body, he could actually be just as fast as the girl, totally surprising the kid, explaining that mages focus entirely on the spirit and one basic spell could instantly kill him. So he's got a strong divine fetus, but his physical body is absolute garbage. Remembering that the gross food buffed up his physique, so all he really needs to do is attack first, giving the enemy zero chance to even react, staring blankly at his bowl in complete and utter silence, thinking how his grandpa has no clue about the three lights art making his body ridiculously strong, downing his bowl and deciding to focus 100% on just tempering his body, doubling his cultivation speed, meditating right there wrapped in a glowing blue aura, with the bright light shining straight down through the giant hole in the roof. Shaking with fear in the corner, the dog named Blackpot quietly watches them. Suddenly, his grandpa starts groaning, feeling incredibly hungry again, rocking a sinister look, literally drooling over the sweet smell of fresh human flesh, creeping closer to his meditating grandson, muttering over and over that he's absolutely starving, blowing smoke out of his mouth, going totally crazy, wanting to eat someone alive. With glowing red eyes in the dark, he stretches his nasty claws right toward the kid. But he suddenly stops, screaming and grabbing his own wrist just to hold himself back, leaping up and smashing right through the temple wall to run off into the night, snapping his eyes open, startled out of his mind by the huge crash. Outside, the old guy crashes into the dirt right next to a dead officer's body, tumbling down and smashing into the rocks, kicking up a massive cloud of dust, running straight to the hole in the wall, screaming out for his grandpa, leaning over the edge, asking himself if the old man really just ran off again. His eyes go crazy wide when he spots something creeping around out there, noticing that one of the totally dead bodies actually just moved all by itself, rubbing his eyes hard, totally convinced he's just hallucinating the whole thing. But suddenly, the undead officer actually starts to stand straight up, with his head tilted, super pale skin, and totally dead, empty eyes, screaming in absolute terror at the zombie while the poor dog just barks in panic. Then right after that, every single dead body gets up at the exact same time, standing in a super stiff formation, obviously being mind controlled by something else, hearing a really weird sound, almost like someone playing a creepy flute. Out of nowhere, this bizarre wedding procession comes marching right out of the woods, realizing right away that his first theory was actually completely and utterly wrong. Taking a closer look to see who's actually playing those weird instruments down there, spotting humanoid foxes holding huge flags, proving these things definitely aren't human, flashing some crazy sinister smiles, looking way more bizarre than actually evil. Remembering his grandpa mentioning that whoever goes around manipulating dead bodies must be the powerful Sweet Clan, literally making the zombies dance to their creepy tunes. With Grandpa totally missing, the creepy procession gets closer and closer to the temple, quickly whipping out his only real defense, the good old peachwood talisman, shaking with fear, completely unsure if this little thing will actually stop the Sui. Then a voice calls out from the red carriage, telling the groom to get inside, marching straight up to the ruined temple where our guy is still trying to hide, screaming in unison for the groom to hurry up and step right into the carriage. With the zombie officers joining the chant, their empty eyes glowing in the dark, making their creepy chant echo through the night, standing right at his front door, realizing the invitation is actually for him, staring out the window, completely terrified, yelling that it's all over, watching blue flames fly straight at him. But out of nowhere, everything just stops, leaving him totally confused, seeing a giant boulder blocking the wall while Blackpot just whimpers. Before he can even process it, some force smashes the wall and sends the kid flying, recovering in pure shock, knowing that boulder weighed a literal ton. Right then, the red carriage pops into the temple with a super creepy green aura, and a lady's hand, rocking long red nails, slowly pulls back the silk curtain, leaving the MC absolutely terrified with a drop of sweat rolling down his face. The dog barks fiercely to protect him, showing off some serious loyalty. Then the bride in the red veil steps out, coming face to face with the kid, getting yanked by some invisible force, completely and totally caught off guard, and tossed straight into a super dark place, smashing right into a wooden wall and feeling incredibly dizzy, with the carriage floating outside in a super gloomy void. Looking around in total silence, wondering how the heck he got there, looking down and feeling an absolute wave of panic, sweating cold bullets when he realizes the harsh truth. Being stuck right inside the carriage, seeing the confused dog outside, with the creepy bride hiding right there behind the curtain. Then the curtain snaps shut, plunging everything into pitch black darkness. Looking at himself and noticing he's actually wearing a groom's outfit. Trying to scream, but the voice gets totally stuck in his throat, getting forced to sit down by some weird magic, completely paralyzed. Suddenly, the carriage starts floating away and literally leaves the temple, with the foxes carrying the carriage to the sound of that bizarre music. Watching the whole thing super worried, the dog finally reacts, barking loud and sprinting right after the macabre procession. Inside, the bride's creepy hands slowly reach out for him, flashing a sinister smile and grabbing the kid right by the collar, opening her mouth to show off sharp teeth, totally ready to attack. But a high-pitched scream echoes from the carriage, piercing through the night, with Black Pot running and barking non-stop on the outside. Just then, the MC gets spat right out, hitting the dirt hard and kicking up dust, looking completely confused while his dog runs right up to him, getting up sweating cold bullets, having zero clue what just went down. Back inside the carriage, the creepy bride screams in pure agony, because the hand mark on the kid's chest flashed and literally burned her. Back at the temple, he figures the ghost hand actually saved his life, and quickly blocks the front door with the giant boulder all over again, realizing he needs to seal the place up fast before she comes right back, prepping a bunch of yellow paper right on the stone table. Brush in hand, focusing hard to remember his grandpa's drawing style, working super hard under the faint light of the oil lamp, staring at the finished talisman, crossing his fingers that it actually works, and slapping it straight onto the stone barricade. Remembering the sway are so strong they can even destroy local godmothers. Leaning against the rock, super worried his grandpa might run into them, sitting in a gloomy corner, just hoping the old man turns out okay, petting his dog and getting the good boy's attention, with watery eyes venting that his grandpa is actually crying, struggling to admit that he might have already stopped being human over half a month ago, kicking off a flashback, with the old guy warning he'd throw his own funeral just to trick death, standing with his back turned to an altar completely covered in candles, laying in the coffin, saying faking his death would buy him a few more years, and calling out for the kid from right inside the box, wearing a sad look, unable to stand the thought of leaving him all alone. Back to the present, with the MC crying because everything changed after that, seeing his teeth crack and turn super sharp, just like a wild beast, with the creepy red-eyed old man literally devouring lit candles, quitting normal food entirely and only wanting to munch on those candles, losing his taste for meals and preferring just the smell of burning incense, and even worse, starting to crave some seriously weird stuff to eat, like humans, as the old guy suddenly shows up with glowing red eyes. Right then the dog cries and the kid realizes his grandpa is already dead, knowing he just wanted to protect him, but now he's nothing more than a corpse, but venting that it doesn't matter since he's still his only family left. Then, some heavy footsteps grab Blackpot's attention right away. It's Grandpa in his straw hat, greeted by the dog happily wagging his tail, sitting down totally exhausted and rocking a super sad look on his face, hiding his pale face in glowing red eyes right behind a little fan, watching his grandson sleep so peacefully right there on the straw mat, heading over to the fire to stir a cauldron, with the dog chilling nearby, thinking to himself that he might be old, but he can still hold on tight, blowing on the fire, knowing he has to survive until the kid grows up, with a gloomy stare, dreading the day he just won't be able to hold back anymore, and having to kill the kid with his own hands, while the boy cries in his sleep, deciding to take him down together so he won't hurt anyone else in the future. Out of nowhere, a loud crack echoes and the ground shakes violently, making the NC wake up super confused while the whole temple rocks, with a strong wind hitting him as his eyes go wide, having no clue what's up. Looking outside and seeing the hill grow right into the clouds, screaming for Grandpa, running over to the old man, who says it's normal and tells him to chill out, getting all hyped about his grandpa's experience and overflowing with questions, firing off questions about the temple, the sui, and the super early sunset. But the old guy is only thinking about doubling the kid's medicine dose today. Right after that, the kid spits out the green liquid with a totally disgusted face, meditating a bit later, feeling a burning sensation actually refining his body, wondering if that's actually the sun and moon energy coming from his chi. Right then, a massive question just pops right into his head, looking at the sealed door and wondering where the heck that moonlight was coming from, jumping up super fast and walking straight to the edge of the cliff. But the feeling completely and utterly vanishes once he steps outside, heading straight back inside the creepy old temple, and the energy explodes, realizing he only absorbs that sweet essence in there, face-palming and deciding to keep his mouth shut so he doesn't get extra meds, suspecting his grandpa doesn't know a thing, until he gets called over for dinner, grabbing the medicine right from his hands and accepting it with zero enthusiasm, chugging it all at once, super focused on getting back to the temple to cultivate, riding the cart to to a rocky canyon with the dog happily running alongside, and our MC asks if they're heading back, but the old man says they gotta sell talismans. Then the kid remembers the big festival lasts 3 days, and today's actually the last one. Arriving at Yanshu village, a totally walled-in place that's super busy, coming face to face with a massive statue right at the front entrance. It's the village's godmother, an epic figure with hands covering her eyes, with the locals praying with absolute devotion right at the base of the monument. But one group doesn't bow, and Grandpa explains they're Shuingyu nobles just passing through. Totally intrigued that outsiders are here, but the village is still so quiet. Then the old guy says he's off to buy herbs and tells him to watch the stall. Before leaving, he warns the kid not to just use the talismans without thinking, making the kid totally frown, not liking that strict order one bit. Dozing off on the cart until he wakes up to someone asking for peach blossom talismans. Waking up looking super confused about the whole situation, with the hyped up guy asking how many and the MC confirming he's got some, quickly counting the few that are actually left in the pile, smacking the cart and saying he's absolutely taking them all, but getting bummed seeing the amount, saying that won't be enough for anything, shooting an unreadable, intense look straight at the kid, and straight up asking if he happens to be a talisman master. The MC thinks he has 0 mana, but casually activates his special technique, remembering that the drawings from last night actually worked perfectly, confirming with a ton of confidence that yeah, he totally is. Then the guy tosses a solid silver piece right in front of him, telling the kid to follow him and draw a few more right this second, offering 50 taels, making our MC's eyes bulge at that crazy amount, getting super hyped and sealing the deal right on the spot, walking with the dog, asking where they're drawing, and the guy just says follow me. Entering the thick forest with the rushing guy, noticing they're hiking up the mountain, quickly asking him where the heck they are actually heading. The guy introduces himself as Li Guang, a servant of the young master hunting nearby, saying his master wants talismans to score with ladies, making the MC laugh. Asking for his name, the servant says it's from the Lai family of Shuinyu, making the kid jump, remembering that total loser who passed the big exam, wondering in his head if it's actually that exact same guy. The servant spots his face and asks if he's already heard of his famous rep, playing it cool with a smile, saying everyone knows about his #1 spot. Hearing that, the guy laughs out loud, noting he didn't do half bad, but only actually passed because of his family's massive influence and nothing else, making the MC think about all the crazy wealth and power that family holds, with a growing rage, linking that exact power to the theft of his divine fetus, clenching his fist in pure hate, ready to settle the score with this Li Shao During, arriving at a camp packed with tents and a big fire right in the woods, spotting a guy laying down right away and guessing it has to be him. It's Li Shaoding himself, fat as a pig and just chilling in a chair, with totally silent hatred burning brightly right in the MC's eyes, quickly analyzing the distance of every single guard standing around, counting 6 guards plus the guide, knowing he's dead meat if they use magic. Then the servant announces the talisman master and the fat guy opens one eye, explaining he brought the kid to draw on the spot since they ran out of stock. Seeing his chance, he figures his strength could snap the cultivator in a sneak attack. Just then, Xiao Weeding stares at him and the kid panics, thinking he got totally recognized. But the noble just points right at Black Pot, saying it's literally just a dog, stabbing a fat piece of meat from the bowl using his fancy sword, calling the dog over and casually offering him the tasty snack. The little mascot quickly runs over, looking super excited for the treat. Laughing out loud, the noble pets the dog and gives him some praise. Feeling like a total idiot, the MC realizes it'd be impossible to get recognized here. Then, Li Guang points at the table, telling him to draw up 20 sheets, staring intensely right at the wooden table, asking if 20 is enough. Xiaodeng yells that the more, the better, explaining he wants to use the items to score with the girls from the neighboring families, flashing a super gross smile, literally drooling at the idea of having them all, promising the guards the extra talisman so they can hook up with the maids too. With the guards cheering, our MC calculates a distance of 1.8 jane, totally confident he can kill the target in one swift move and 2 steps. But he hesitates for a second when he looks over at the guards, thinking there's 7 weak guards, but their combined magic would absolutely wreck him, unless he somehow manages to take down all 7 of them at the exact same time. That way, the young master becomes a super easy target, grabbing a sharp knife and stepping forward, leaving everyone completely confused, with a startled guard loudly questioning what the heck he's doing. Then another yells about the knife, and the guards rush in glowing with energy, getting absolutely terrified as soon as they spot the shining blade, totally ignoring his squad and charging straight at the fat noble. Right then, the target grabs a talisman that bursts into flames in his hand. Screaming to kill him, the talisman explodes into a golden light barrier, stopping dead in his tracks and begging them to just wait a second. Panicking hard, he says he only wanted the dog's blood to draw the magic runes, screaming at the top of his lungs for Lai Guang to come help him, leaving the young master looking incredibly and totally confused. And on his sword, Guang looks pretty surprised and super nervous, until he cracks a big smile and laughs, calling it a huge misunderstanding, throwing his arm right around the MC's neck to calm everybody down. Bowing to the master, he confirms dot blood is totally essential for the magic. Pointing at the pet, he says the energy spikes big time when mixed with cinnabar. And Xiaoding looks relieved, but completely furious about the crazy scare, ordering the poor dog to just accept his brutal death, kicking the poor guy, making him bark loudly in total pain, with the guards finally relaxing and complaining about the stupid false alarm. Picking up the knife from the dirt while glaring at Guang with pure disgust. Filled with hate, he recalculates the distance between 2 and 4 enemies, locking his eyes straight onto the closest guard. Li Guang himself, mentally saying excuse me as he steps forward, but our new person suddenly walks in, totally interrupting his master plan. It's a pretty lady asking if this is the young noble's fancy camp, introducing herself as Zai, making our MC realize things just got way more complicated. Figuring if she fights, he's dead, and if he runs, his entire plan gets exposed. With her around, the kid panics knowing his grandpa and the village are at serious risk. Greeting the ladies super nicely, the distracted guards agree to help her right away, grabbing the fruit baskets, chatting about the food, totally blinded by her beauty. Then the girl bows right to the noble and hands over her lady's calling card. Laughing, the master says she's way too polite and definitely didn't need to bring gifts, with the guards completely hypnotized, just staring at the pretty girl from behind. And one of them, holding a shiny apple, can't even manage to blink, blushing hard and literally drooling, totally lost in all her gorgeous charms. But a sharp blade slices his neck, scaring the absolute life out of him instantly, landing smoothly on the ground while the very first body drops completely dead, rushing super fast at Li Guang, slitting his throat with absolutely zero mercy, leaving the servant with wide open eyes, standing there in absolute shock. Looking satisfied with his bloody knife, he counts the second kill right out loud. With the apple rolling on the dirt, the kid is already sprinting for the next target, landing a ridiculously powerful punch right into the third enemy's face. It's such a brutal hit that it shatters everything and sends the poor guy flying. Watching their buddy launch to the air, the other two still have zero clue what's happening, spinning midair and kicking the fourth guard straight in the side of the head. In total chaos, the MC keeps attacking while the last soldier just stands there watching, finishing off the fifth guy by jamming the knife's handle right into his throat, leaving the man dying in agony, completely unable to understand why this is happening, wondering why the heck this random kid wanted to brutally murder all of them, trying to recall any sort of beef, since they never ever had a single issue before. His very last thought being that this crazy kid was just way too dangerous. Down to the last two, the MC suddenly remembers an old quote from his master. As the apple stops in the grass, he says they literally came to protect his enemy. So, every single one of them was destined to be buried right then and there, landing a perfect hit on the second to last guy, giving him a quick and wordy death. And the bleeding servant only manages to mumble a curse word right before dropping. Then, the last guy preps a magic spell and instantly becomes the next target. But before he can even react, he takes a glowing palm strike straight to the chest, leaving the poor guard in total shock at that totally unbelievable speed. And the kid immediately follows it up with a ridiculously powerful kick, causing a massive crater in the ground and totally snapping his neck, falling down completely lifeless, while the apple rolls right up next to his head. With 7 bodies on the floor, he turns with his bloody knife and says, "You're up next," throwing a sharp sword flying straight in Zai's direction. But the weapon bounces off a purple energy barrier, sending her into a total panic, getting thrown super far away from the heavy impact of the strike. Quickly, the MC appears right behind her and traps the blade against her neck, letting out a wild grunt, with bloody eyes glaring right at the completely shocked girl, making one brutal move and snapping the poor girl's neck right on the spot. With 8 bodies covering the ground, Xiaoding stays kneeling and totally paralyzed by fear, walking super slowly right in the direction of his totally terrified enemy. Completely desperate, the noble begs him not to be impulsive and just try to talk this out, offering cash and absolutely anything he wanted, literally begging for his life. Raising the knife, our MC calls out the young master with an incredibly cold voice, asking if he'd hand over his life, rocking a sadistic smile on his dirty face. Sweating bullets with wide eyes, the scared villain actually repeats the crazy question, crawling backward and triggering a hidden talisman while still babbling about his money. Suddenly, a massive golden bell barrier forms right around his fat body. Spotting the golden bell talisman, the kid questions his opponent's pathetic magic spells, prepping a blue energy punch and taunting if he forgot exactly where that fetus came from, screaming the question, unleashing the attack's full force right into the golden shield, exploding the shield into tiny pieces and launching the young master flying super far, crashing into the dirt, screaming his lungs out from the heavy impact, totally desperate, dragging himself through the grass and begging to stay alive, grabbing the enemy by the collar, asking how he dares to want to live after the theft, reminding him that his head was split wide open and he wasn't even supposed to survive, glaring with pure hatred, swearing to seek bloody revenge as long as he's still breathing. And Lee cries, blaming the family that forced him to do it because of his garbage talent, justifying he already has money and women, not giving a single crap about any high status, telling him to shut up, asking if he has any clue how awful his last 2 years have been, venting about all the humiliation and knocking the noble down with a totally brutal kick. Right then the enemy stutters, completely confused about the 2-year timeline mentioned, sitting up looking terrified and begging the kid to repeat the exact date again, screaming in total despair that he actually had his transplant just 1 year ago. As reality hits, the MC freezes in pure shock, realizing this whole thing might be a mistake, but Lee insists, swearing he's got medical records to prove the exact date of the surgery, staring at his bloody hands, totally shocked, thinking Lee might not be the guilty guy, denying the blame one more time by screaming at the absolute top of his lungs, explaining that a fetus turns to ash super fast, making it totally impossible to store that long, thinking about his huge mistake, acting purely on impulse because of one silly little rumor. Then, Lee points at the mess, saying that killing 7 guards was already incredibly terrible, but killing the Ding family maid was way worse, straight up calling the kid a violent thug. However, mid-speech, a shiny sword suddenly pierces right through the noble's chest, looking down at his chest, having absolutely zero clue where that strike came from. Stepping up with zero mercy, the MC chops off the enemy's head in one super clean swing, staring at the fallen body, fully aware he didn't take his gift, but he definitely robbed someone, and the real victim wasn't nearly as lucky and ended up actually dying in the terrible process. So, concluding that he totally still deserved to die, casually holding the guy's severed head, calmly grabbing a fresh apple right out of the fruit basket sitting nearby, deciding to wait until dark, since the creepy entity will drag the bodies away under the moonlight, completely erasing any sort of chance of him getting tracked down later, walking away with the camp blazing in the background, accompanied by his trusty black pot, sprinting through the thick forest, screaming in pure relief when he finally spots his old grandpa, pulling back his hood, trying to catch his breath after that ridiculously wild escape. Right away, the old man tells him to change clothes, avoiding leaving any single trail of blood, nodding super fast and literally stripping down right there on the exact same spot, tossing the bloody clothes straight into the blazing flames of the campfire, watching the fire burn up all the evidence, standing there with his arms totally crossed, remembering that if there are absolutely zero witnesses, there's no crime at all to answer for, hopping onto the old cart and heading out onto the dirt road right after that, thinking about how totally prepared the old guy is, seeming to have a ton of experience with this. Suddenly, Grandpa asks if little Ten is hiding something, totally catching the kid off guard, asking about the talisman cache, making the MC panic big time about getting completely busted. The very next day, local law officers find the nasty skeletal remains at the burnt camp. An investigator notes that wild spirits ate everything, making it impossible to find the real cause. And the guard reports the Ding family only noticed something was off when they looked for their maid. Listening to the whole thing in absolute silence, Magistrate Lee Keifa keeps a super serious face, turning right to the young clerk holding a staff next to him, wanting to hear his honest opinion. Right then, the clerk Zhuge Jian states with total conviction that the kid was murdered. Totally shocked, Lee Keifa demands some proof right this second, explaining that the lady sent for her maid way before the spirits even came out, and not even wild beasts would kill 8 people at once, including 7 elite guards. Kneeling down at the scene, he notices there are 0 traces of spells or talismans. Showing a piece of a blade, he says the killer only used a knife and his bare fists, with a stab in the back, going top to bottom, pointing straight to someone pretty short. Thinking really hard about the whole body analysis, pointing right at a skull completely crushed by the attacker's bare hands, while an officer writes down every single detail. And the craziest part is that the killer took 6 whole steps in a single breath, and completely wiped out the 8 guards, plus the young master himself, without giving anybody even a second to fight back or use their magic spells. Clenching his fist, the magistrate thinks he used a talisman to get that crazy strength. Standing up super fast, the clerk totally disagrees. Touching the dirt, he points out there are talisman ashes in only one single single spot, being just the golden shield used for self-defense by the young master, figuring it has to be a short cultivator fully focused on training his physical body. But Yuga corrects him, saying it could totally be a master hiding his real power, with the scribe writing down the killer's identity as completely unknown for now. Totally desperate, the kid's dad asks how to find the culprit in such a massive crowd. Smiling, the investigator says every single criminal always makes one silly little mistake, and his big mistake was actually bringing a dog along. Remembering our MC in Black Pot grabbing a bite while totally covered in blood, with the dog just chilling and casually chewing on a bone. Even without footprints, the investigator points out canine teeth march right on a bone, getting asked if it couldn't just be some random wild dog from around the area, shutting that down, since a wild beast wouldn't leave fresh meat just to chew human bones. Noticing some red dust on the hand, packed with super energetic black dog blood, concluding that the guilty guy is totally the talisman master the dead kid invited over. Furious, Leaky Face suggests summoning his son's soul right this very second. Getting pretty tense, Juga warns him that he already tried to pull that off, but every single soul from the dead guys at the camp just completely vanished into thin air, totally shocking the magistrate with his son's bizarrely missing soul, freaking out, thinking the killer literally devoured his kid's spirit, guessing it could be an evil entity powerful enough to wipe out the entire city. Right then, the furious dad orders them to arrest the short master and his stupid dog, wanting the kid alive just so he can rip out his heart and use it as a bloody offering. Meanwhile, the MC wakes up groaning in his bed, with the green mark glowing bright on his chest, screaming in pure and utter agony, complaining that his heart literally feels like it's getting crushed, trying hard to force his energy technique so he doesn't just die from the pain right there, sitting up and meditating super hard just to try and control the awful suffering, with little blue energy spheres floating all around his body, pushing everything straight to his chest just to suppress that nasty ghost mark, panting hard because he pushed too hard in the fight, which totally weakened the magic seal. After bouncing back a bit, he takes a slow walk right across the courtyard, walking up to his grandpa, who's just chilling and eating his dinner, thinking the medicine is way too weak and he needs to hit the tomb again to focus his power. Far away, a lady cries her eyes out, burning offerings and calling for her son's soul. Crying super hard, the mom just keeps on going with the sad ritual, kneeling right by the river, screaming for her boy to finally come back home, watching the whole thing from afar with his hands chilling behind his head, and quickly recognizing the lady from the neighboring village, remembering today is actually the anniversary of her kid drowning. Right then, a ghost pops out of the water, totally gasping for air. It's the little boy's ghost crying out for his mom, trying his best to swim to her, saying he's definitely not lost at all. But the other ghosts complain they actually died just trying to save his life. Seeing the spirit beg, not getting why the heck she can't even hear him, crying and reliving the exact moment he got totally stuck right in the mud. Closing his eyes, our MC says he absolutely can't stand seeing families torn apart, deciding to jump in and just help them out once and for all, diving straight into the freezing water. Meanwhile, a bunch of guys on horseback start rolling up. Juga Jian stops his horse, noticing something seems totally off, grabbing his fancy heavenly eye talisman, and activating the spell to reveal all the hidden ghosts and gods, tossing the magic paper right into the river, and spotting some crazy heavy movement right under the water. Meanwhile, the spirits totally mock the MC for trying to play the hero, with two ghosts launching an attack right after that, trying to drag him down, but the kid fires back with a solid punch. Watching the whole thing, Juga figures the kid is absolute dead meat, but then he sees a massive wall of water form right around him, creating a crazy whirlpool and blasting the ghost super far away, getting completely surprised to actually see a body refinement master out there. Deep underwater, the kid finally grabs hold of the child, popping out of the water and spitting out a mouthful right after, panting hard while holding the body, saying that was way too close, with a little tag on the boy's neck that clearly says Yu Shuan. Totally impressed by that kid's crazy breath control and super fast strikes, noticing he doesn't even fall behind those fancy divine fitness cultivators, and in close combat, the official guards wouldn't stand a single chance. Right then, the mom spots her son and sprints straight to him, screaming in total absolute desperation for her precious child, hugging his cold body and telling him it's finally time to go home. Watching the whole thing, the spirit wonders why she's crying so hard, starting to cry right along with her, totally feeling her heavy sadness. Then the lady loudly thanks her kind savior, looking all around but totally unable to find the kid anywhere. But the MC is already far away, dragging the other dead bodies out of the water, laying them on the grass while Juga and his men just stare at him, commenting that he even rescued the dead guys who literally just attacked him, praising the kid's massive compassion, while the guards totally want a word with him, laying flat on the grass, feeling completely and utterly utterly exhausted. Getting called out by Juge, the kid quickly spots the official government uniform, with the officer introducing himself and casually asking for his name. Answering Chang Shi, already super suspicious about what the heck they want. Praising his wild skills, Juga asks if he can run some questions by him about a murder, wondering if they already found the spot, trying his absolute best to hide his nerves. Getting defensive and asking what they want, but Juga just tells him to chill out, asking about the talisman master Chen Yendu over in Huanpo village. Answering with relief, thinking his grandpa is totally innocent in this whole mess. When Juga asks the old guy's age, the kid says he can barely even move around. Right then, a guard figures it couldn't be him and the real suspect probably bolted, making Juga wonder if they're actually barking up the completely wrong tree. But suddenly Blackpot shows up out of nowhere, running and barking loudly, hugging his happy dog and saying he's gotta head home for some dinner. Getting completely shocked seeing the black dog, instantly remembering the bloody crime scene, walking up to praise the dog's crazy energy, making our MC's blood run totally cold, grabbing his dog tight and saying he's not for sale, already planning his great escape, sprinting away with Blackpot, while Juga finally connects all the dots, figuring out that a 10-year-old master wouldn't raise any suspicion in a sneak attack, running sweaty through the woods, looking back terrified that he's being followed. Watching from afar with a smirk, Juga decides to put the kid to the test. Liked it? Then drop a like for the next part.